You know, they say there's no such thing as time travel or a fountain of youth. But the people who say those things don't work on old cars. Because right now, it's 1976, and I'm 14 years old, and I'm laying in a gravel parking lot, changing out the starter on my neighbor's 67 Chevy. It's exact. All right, okay, it's not quite exact, because in 1976, when I was 14, I wouldn't have had a fancy floor jack. This thing would have been held up with a bumper jack, and I wouldn't have a jack stand under there. I'd have a bunch of random stuff piled up so if the car came down, it didn't get crushed. And laying under there, taking bolts out, you know, that mindless sort of thing. I'm not laying there thinking and dreaming about someday I'm going to build cars and mess with top fuel dragsters and all the other stuff. Instead, now I'm laying under there, taking the bolts out, and I can reflect back on doing those things. But there it is. There's my happy place. That's where I'm at home. It sounds crazy, right? But it's the truth. So I got the old starter out, and I think we found a problem. That'll cause a disruption of some sort. So I got the new one, and I'm going to slither back under there now and get this thing running, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, let's see if we can get this thing to percolate. So where we left off yesterday, we got it to fire, ran for a second or two, popped, it farted, backfired up to the carburetor, stalled, and we couldn't get it restarted because the starter was, you know, just no action. So let's see. Battery hooked up. Okay. No fire, that's a good sign. Let's give it another prime. Now we filled the bowls yesterday, so we know we don't have to bother with that. And look, this time I left the door open so I didn't have to wrestle with it. All right, what do we got? Okay, we got still nothing here, and no reaction from the light. I bet you it's a neutral safety switch. Hang on a second. Let me position this thing. Yep. Oh, she's a runner. Actually, it doesn't sound too bad. Sounds good at the exhaust, but that popping through the intake, that's showing it's got a stuck intake valve or an intake valve that isn't sealing completely. Overall, the motor sounds great. No valve noises, no nothing. All right, so we got two possibilities here. It might have sat for a while with an intake valve just barely cracked open, and she's got some rust between the seat and the valve, or the valve might be gummed a little bit, so it's not sealing completely. The stem isn't allowing the valve to close all the way. But that's what we got there. We got one intake valve that's like not sealing. What I'll do is I'll let it run for a few minutes, and we'll see if it doesn't heat up and things loosen a little bit. If not, then we'll throw some transmission fluid down the carburetor, rev it up, and see if we can't free it up that way. She's been running for about 10-12 minutes now, and strong smell of gas. It's running very, very fat. And so before I start screwing around with the valves, let's see if we can get an adjustment out of the carburetor. Oh yeah, and that's closed all the way. Let's open it here. This, by the way, is ported. There's no vacuum coming out of here right now. Alright, that's closed all the way too. Alright, so first step here, we got that side closed. We got this side closed. Both of the idle adjustment screws are all the way closed, and it's idling good, which means we got a problem. What that's telling us is that this carburetor is pulling fuel from someplace else. It could be a gasket leak between the metering block and the main body. It could be a leaking power valve. There's a lot of different things it could be. We know it's not a float adjustment because we're not seeing any fuel nipples in the boosters. So it's an internal fuel leak someplace inside this carburetor. And we still have that. Alright, so let's pour some ATF down there. Alright, we made a little bit of a mess. So I started trickling the ATF down the carb and it was blowing all over the place. So I've got this sign here now to block the wind. Let's see if we can bring this valve off. Alright, well, that was just about a whole quart of transmission fluid over the course of like 10 minutes. I give it a rest, go back, give it some more, give it a rest, go back, give it some more. It's not making any difference. We don't have a gummed valve, we have a mechanical problem. Like I said, it could be an over-adjusted valve, or it could be bad, just some rust or buildup on the seat that's keeping it from closing completely. But there's definitely an issue there we're going to have to go after. There's also a problem in the carburetor, because clearly we've got our idle circuits closed off and it's still idling just fine. I don't know how far Ducky's going to want to go with this thing, but at this point, yeah, it looks like it's not going to be just as simple like get it running and send it down the road. Let me consult with him and see what he wants to do with it. And That's it. We're gonna have to leave it as a cliffhanger. In the meantime, the car runs. You can probably cruise around with it. I don't know how far, I don't know how well, but it is up and running. And I think most of the critters are dead in there. At least I didn't get bit. All right, to be continued, I think. I'll see you tomorrow.